Have a lot of debt, issues with your student loan payments, or IRS problems? Get the answers to all your legal questions and more on Behind the Law with attorney Justin Clark every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. on TV 27.
I
mean, they definitely have some wear and tear.
They do have some wear and tear. So I decided instead of just going back and forth to get headphones, I'm just going to grab these.
36,000 absentee ballots have been returned so far.
All right.
Oh, wow.
Check,
5,000 last week, so yeah, that's a third already.
All right. There we go. Good. I just want to make sure that works. There's that. All right, folks.
Here we go.
Here we go.
WOTW HD2 Windermere, Bud 94.1. From the attorneys Justin Clark and Associates, YouHavePower.com studios, this is Behind the Law with attorney Justin Clark.
And welcome to the program, and thank you for spending some of your weekend here with me on Behind the Law. My name is Justin Clark. We're here to answer any legal question that you may have, anything from accident to zoning. Dial up the phones 321-282-1055 during the week, focusing mainly on bankruptcy, IRS problems, real estate, personal injury, and even your student loan debt. But for the purposes of today, call me for anything. 321-282-1055. Plenty of information on the website, www.youhavepower.com. It's youhavepower.com. You can watch the show Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. on Central Florida's 27 WRDQ. Interact with us on social media at ATTY Justin Clark. You can ask us anything right there live as well. Joining me as always, my good friend and Orlando radio legend, Mick Dolan. Mick, how are you, sir?
I'm great.
I got a lot of Mick time. A lot of Mick time this week. The show is now every single day here on Bud 94.1, 8 p.m. till 9 p.m.
Are you tired yet?
I've done a lot of radio this week for a guy who actually has a job too.
Really?
You know, radio's not a job, really. Yeah,
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's fun.
You love it.
It ain't work.
And from across the hall, our sister station 103.1, The Wolf, it's Skid.
Well, hey, how are you,
What's
sir?
up, Skid?
I'm doing fabulous.
I need your production advice here over the next few days, probably. We don't
That's
have to
okay.
do it now, but I promise you I'm going to be calling you saying, dude, can you just come over here for like an hour to help me out? Because we have a whole studio in my office now.
That's crazy.
And I'm trying to do a show and, hit these buttons. There's a lot of buttons there, man.
There are and I have no idea what these buttons do either. I just hit them.
Yeah.
That's all I do.
I gotcha. 321-282-1055. Very special guest today. I think we all know that election season is upon us. We see the advertisements. You hear about all the candidates going on. And I wanted to have Judge Adam McGinnis in here today because, first of all, when you're a judge, you automatically are going to upset some people because you have to make tough decisions, right? But I've never heard one bad thing. I have not heard one lawyer ever come to me and say anything bad about you. First of all, welcome to the show, Judge. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks for joining. So, I mean, that's hard to do. I mean, when you're up there making tough decisions every day, all day, I mean, some people are going to get upset, right? I mean, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with just knowing you have to make these tough decisions?
Well, sure. So I've been a judge for 6 years. I spent 2 years on the civil bench, 2 years on the criminal bench, and now I'm down at the jail doing initial appearances. And in the 6 years that I've been a judge, I've estimated I've probably had over 100,000 cases. And you think about how many hearings you have, and in every case, someone's happy and someone's not happy. And so as long as you explain your ruling, as long as your ruling follows the law, and as long as you're neutral and impartial and do your job, they might be upset with the ruling, but they can't really be upset with you.
I think some people, we all understand that if you're running for president, you have to seek election. You have to run for office. Or if you're going to be a state rep, you have to run for office. But a lot of people are even confused as to why a judge even has to run an election. Because we hear, watch Fox News and see President Trump appointing the Supreme Court justice. But yet you're running for an election. How does that work?
Sure. So one of the things that we've done is we knock on doors and we talk to people, and we've knocked on about 10,000 doors. And people ask you questions like, what's your position on gay marriage or the right to life? And so with some of the things that are going on with the Trump administration and some of the appointments, I say, listen, you need to understand there's a big difference between the President of the United States appointing the United States Supreme Court judge and me, Adam McGinnis, running to be your Orange County judge, wanting to handle your small claims credit card debt case. So we don't really have a position
There's a
on right
difference.
to life, and we don't really have those types of positions. So I'm a guy that's going to sit there and I'm going to educate you. I'm going to walk you through this. And so after about a minute or two of conversation, they're either totally turned off by the fact that we have to run because we can't say anything, and they can't vote for us because they don't know anything about us and they want us to lean a certain way, and or they're really excited by the fact that we are who we say we are, and we're not here to take a position or advocate for one thing or another.
So federal judges are appointed, correct? I mean,
Correct.
like the local here district judges are appointed. Is that not right?
Right. So the trial judges, the state trial judges, which are your county judges and your circuit judges, they're elected. Now, if there's a vacancy, it's filled by an appointment, but then they're subject to re-election the next cycle. And that's every 2 years for judges.
And
6-year total term.
Many people have in their heads that we go to the polls in November. Yet I know that we have something coming up way sooner than that. Why are we asking people to vote for you in August as opposed to November?
So the judicial races are in the primary. And win, lose, or draw, August 28th, which is about 10 days away, I will either keep my job or I'll be looking for a job. I don't know if you'll be hiring in January.
We're not going to have to worry about that, Judge.
But,
You're not going anywhere, pal. But we have to make sure that you get out there. This is Judge Adam McGinnis. We need your support. We need your vote. Who can vote for you?
So anybody who's registered to vote in Orange County, doesn't matter where you live, if there aren't any districts, any circuits, anything of that nature, there's 750,000 registered voters, 1,100 square miles. We anticipate that about 110,000 people will come out and vote. And I just looked at my phone, and 36,000 people have already voted in this race.
So we're 1/3 of the way through.
We're a third of the way through the election already.
So let's say, for instance, I don't want to go to the polls when everyone else is there. I know that early voting just started. Do you know how people can vote early for you?
Sure. So if you want to request the ballot by mail, you can do that. You have till the 22nd to make that request. If you don't make that request by the 22nd, then you can go to one of any 15 early voting locations throughout Orange County. And you don't have to go to the one that's closest to your house. You don't have to go to the one that's in your precinct. You can go to any single one of them. And that started Friday at 10 a.m. and it ends the following Sunday at 6 p.m. And it goes from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day.
Now that you've had some experience, I mean, you've been up there, what, 4 years? 6 years, you said. 6 years already. That experience and seeing thousands and thousands and thousands of cases, I mean, that has to separate you, I would think, from maybe someone else who doesn't have that experience. Now, granted, at one point you became a judge and you didn't have judicial experience, but now you do.
Sure.
I mean, don't you think that separates you a little bit from maybe some of the other candidates?
Well, absolutely. I am the only candidate that's actually a sitting judge. I'm the only candidate that's been elected by the people of Orange County to represent the people of Orange County. And so one of the things is when people talk to me and they want to know things about me and they want to know where my position is or if I'm a good judge or a bad judge, I just say, ask a lawyer. I say, if you know a lawyer, ask a lawyer. Lawyers appear in front of me every day, and whether or not, like you started, some of them I rule against, some of them I rule for, but I can guarantee if I've ruled against them, they'll still tell you to vote for me because they know that I did my job and I followed the law.
I've always wondered how you balance your time, because a lot of the time throughout your day, you're literally sitting on the bench and people are making arguments in front of you. I mean, that's a big portion of your day. Yet you can't necessarily rule on everything right there while you're sitting there. So at some point you have to allocate some time to do some research and to really think about things and write rulings or whatever you have to do. How do you allocate your time when you're sitting on the bench, hearing arguments, but you also have to do stuff behind the scenes?
Sure. You got to work efficiently. So when I was in county civil, we had an average caseload of about 8,500 open cases for each judge.
Wow.
We got 800 new cases a month. If you took a 40-hour work week, that gave you 7.5 minutes per each case. Now, there's no way that you can hear an entire case in 7.5 minutes. So one of the things that I did when I was down there is I found cases with the same issue in them, and I would find plaintiffs and defendants with the same representation. And so to give you an example would be a PIP case, personal injury protection.
Sure.
Right? You have an insurance company and you have a hospital. And the hospital submits a bill to the insurance company either doesn't pay it or pays less, or there's some sort of dispute. And so what I would do is I would find that same dispute, I would get that insurance company and that hospital to agree to litigate all 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 cases in one hearing. And so we could knock out 1,000 cases in an afternoon, and what that would do is free up my time to concentrate on some of the other cases. So the idea is you got to work smarter, not harder.
You think that worked? Did that work for you?
It reduced the caseload in 4 civil divisions by 15% in 1 year.
I'd say that worked.
How would you classify or describe the camaraderie amongst other judges? So let me preface this a little bit. So I work in a law firm. I have a bunch of lawyers that work for me, and you know, most of the lawyers are always helpful with each other, but it seems like maybe one lawyer they won't like, or they think that lawyer's not that smart, or whatever. Is it like a work setting when you're a judge amongst all the judges? Is there camaraderie there, or how does that work? I've always wondered what goes on behind the scenes.
Do you go out and have a drink with all the other judges at the end of the day?
You know, when I was elected in 2012, I was the youngest judge in the state of Florida, and most of the judges there were about the same age as my parents. So for myself personally, outside of the workplace, kind of the things that interested us and the things that we were doing in our lives didn't really match up.
We're different.
But 6 years later now, and there's been a turnover of some of the judges through retirements, and some younger judges have come in, and so now we've got a couple judges with young kids. I have a 4.5-year-old daughter. We've got Judge Jose Rodriguez, or I'm sorry, Luis Calderon. He has a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old. Judge Eric Dubois has a 9-year-old. Judge Starr's got 2 young kids. So that kind of core group has stuck together.
So you're the old man now.
I'm still the youngest.
Oh, okay. Are you really?
I am. Still the youngest. Not in the state, but in the circuit.
This is Judge Adam McGinnis. But let's say people have some questions about you. How do they find more information about your candidacy?
Sure. So you can go on our website, keepmcginnis.com, or you can go on our Facebook page. It's Facebook, Keep McGinnis. And you can see what we're all about, and you can join. I think we've got about 1,200 followers on the page right now. You can follow us and see what the campaign's doing and where we're going to be at.
If you're in Orange County, you need to re-elect Judge Adam McGinnis. Please, ladies and gentlemen, anyone who lives in Orange County, registered voter, vote in August. This is not a November thing. This is an August thing, and you can even vote early now for Judge McGinnis. So I have clients all the time who come in on like a January 5th and be like, and the case has been going on for a long time, and they say, I got a new judge now again. It looks like they rotated again. So I don't think people understand that we actually do rotate judges sometimes through divisions. Explain that to us.
Sure. So we have a seniority amongst the judges in county court here. There's 17 county judges. I'm actually 7th or 8th on the seniority. So I'm actually in the top half, even though I'm the youngest still. I'm in the top half of seniority. And so every 2 years they want to rotate the judges. It keeps the judges fresh. It keeps the courts fresh. And so every 2 years you get to pick an assignment, and then they will decide whether or not you'll actually get that assignment based on your seniority. So some judges will pick the same assignment, and you'll see that there's judges that stay in divisions for their entire career. There's other judges like myself that choose to move every opportunity that I can. And so I was originally assigned to civil, I chose criminal, and then I chose to go out and handle this specialized
A little
division.
variety there.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched any TV show and you've seen a murderer show up before a judge and you put yourself in that judge's position? Like, what do you really feel, or what do you really say to someone who very likely has killed a bunch of people and then they're before you in the court? And we're going to ask Judge Adam McGinnis that question and more on the other side of this break. My name is Justin Clark. Behind the Law, I'm Bud, 94.1. Joe, how are you? Thanks for coming in. Good to see you. Joe Durso. Yeah, how are you?
How are you? I'm good. Yes, sir.
So what am I asking or answering?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll phrase it where
You don't even remember.
Just, okay, so I was going to say, how do you feel when you have someone who may or may not, I know you're not forming any conclusions as to whether they're guilty or not, but how do you feel when you think maybe that person in front of you just killed a bunch of people or something?
I haven't had that.
No?
Am I getting yelled at?
I mean, I get people that killed a person.
Or a
I don't know if I
person.
got a multi-murderer in front of me. I'm a county court judge.
Well, you guys are like
I was thinking more, I didn't want to say the particular name, but what's his face? Did he show up in front of you?
Yeah.
Marquis
Google
Floyd.
it. Yeah, that's always a good clip.
Ooh.
He was asking about you.
I bet he was. That he's got tombstones in his eyes. Somebody once described that. Just there's nothing there. It's like, ooh. Okay.
All right, we're ready.
Okay, now I understand.
Here we go. Here we go.
I might.
Welcome back to the show. Justin Clark with you on Behind the Law. Any questions that you have, 321-282-1055. The website, www.youhavepower.com. One more segment ahead here with Judge Adam McGinnis. He's running for re-election, Orange County Judge. Is that how you say it, or do you just say county once? Orange County Judge.
Orange County Judge.
Orange County Judge.
Adam McGinnis.
But you're a county judge, so I don't feel like you should say county twice there. I don't know. I'm not a professional. I have no idea what I'm
You could say I'm an Orange County Court Judge.
There you go. Okay, that sounds a lot better, right? Skid, what do you
I like that. No,
sounds like an idiot.
No. It's Orange County Judge.
So, Judge, you're sitting on the bench. You have a criminal defendant in front of you, right? And you're not forming any conclusions as to whether they're guilty or innocent, of course, because you're impartial at that point. Always impartial. But there's a chance, and you read a police report or whatever that says that this person is accused of murdering someone. Is there a certain feeling that you get when you're in the presence of someone who could be a murderer?
Well, I have individuals. I'm down at the jail, so I see everybody who gets arrested from the night before. I'm actually live streamed on YouTube, so if you want to watch and see what I do every day, you can. If you have nothing better to do in the world, you can come do it.
Every time you go in, they tape it.
There's a camera above my head. Wow. You can go on YouTube and watch it.
So there's total accountability.
100%.
That's great.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm the only courtroom in Central Florida that does that. So if you ever watch the news and you see somebody that's accused of some kind of crime, whatever it is, and they're standing at a podium, and there's a lawyer next to them, and it's a cinder block wall behind them, if it's a male's voice that's the judge, it's me. If it's a female voice, it's not me. But
okay.
Aramis.
I was always taught as a lawyer, practicing in front of judges all the time, to be respectful no matter what. Even if I'm around a judge who I used to know who's retired, I still say, "How are you, Judge?" or "How are you, Your Honor?" It's just how I was taught. Even if you disagree with whatever ruling was just made, it's a smile, and a "Okay, Judge, we'll see you next time." You really shouldn't kind of fire back or say, "Judge, you're an idiot." You can't say anything like that. But I imagine with as many cases that you see, I mean, do you ever see attorneys get disrespectful in front of you?
Absolutely.
So it happens a lot, huh?
It doesn't happen a lot, but it happens, and typically it happens with some of the newer attorneys. And it might just be that they're overzealous. It might be that they're emotional. And one of the reasons that you hire a lawyer or have a lawyer is so that they can keep those emotions out and that they maintain a certain level of professionalism. And quite frankly, it's usually just a matter of a quick conversation, a quick sidebar. And a lot of times they don't even realize what they're doing. But I've never grieved anybody. I've never held anybody in contempt for their behavior. I prefer rather talk to them and hopefully they understand what they did and move forward.
What about unruly defendants themselves? So you're seeing all these defendants right after getting arrested. Some of them are probably still half drunk or whatever when they come in there. So maybe they're saying crazy things to you. How do you control that in your courtroom?
Sure. Well, again, you can watch it live, but there's actually a news clip from, I believe, January of last year where Mark Keith Lloyd had some choice words for me, and that's made the rounds on the internet.
Oh, that was you.
Well, I was one of them. Wow. But that only made the news because of who it was. But every day, individuals have choice words for me, and you just need to understand where they're coming from and where they're at, and we got people that dealing with mental health issues. We got people that are coming off of drugs. We got people that are in some real stressful points in their lives, and sometimes it's flight or fight, and sometimes they do things that are inappropriate. Sometimes they lose control of their bowels as well in front of me. So
oh, good.
We get it all.
That's always nice.
But you've got to keep court moving along. I mean, you have a lot of people to see every day. So,
Sure.
It probably doesn't even bother you personally what they say. You do have to keep it moving, right?
Absolutely. And the thing is, if someone's having a bad day, whatever they're going to say to me, whatever they're going to do to me that day probably isn't going to help their case. So we just reset them. We move them out of there. We say, hey, we're going to give you 24 hours, regroup, come back and see me tomorrow.
God, that's Judge Adam McGinnis. Let's talk. You've been on the bench for 6 years now, but who was the Adam McGinnis prior to being a judge? What did you do professionally?
Sure. So I graduated from UCF, and then I graduated from Berry Law School right here in Orlando. And I was actually the first graduate of Barry Law School ever elected to be a judge.
Really?
And so when I graduated from Barry Law School, I stayed here in Orlando and I opened up my own practice doing criminal and traffic defense work. And over the course of 6 years, I ended up merging with 2 other firms and became the second largest traffic and criminal defense firm in Central Florida here. And I estimated that I handled about 20,000 cases in county court during that time.
Wow. What about family? How you doing on the family?
Family's great. I've been married. I met my wife actually in an exam at law school. She was a year behind me.
I thought you were going to say she was a defendant in your
Really?
court. Let's go off the air.
I'm a defendant
And
in
you
her
got her
court.
all.
Yeah. Likewise.
No, she's a lawyer, and she was actually a public defender, and then did some insurance defense work, and now she's the director for the division of real estate for the state of Florida. And then we got a 4.5-year-old daughter.
Nice.
So
So that means at VPK this year?
just started 2 days ago.
I have a
Her,
6-year-old.
yeah, this week.
6-year-old just started first grade. It's so much
Okay.
fun, and that's an age where, man, they get so cool.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
And we've been out campaigning, and we've made it a family event. So my wife comes to a lot of events, my daughter comes to a lot of events. In fact, I think they probably get more votes than I lose. So
Can't hurt you.
I think that we talk to a lot of politicians or people running for office on the show, and they all will say the same thing, that without the support of their family, they probably just couldn't do it. How is your family holding up through all that? I mean, it's a lot of work. It really is, running for office.
It is. Absolutely. In 2012, when we made the decision that I would run for judge, it was just my wife and I at that point in time, and we sat down and we talked about the financial burden and the time burden and everything that was involved, and we made that decision. And so when you run for public office and you know that you're going to be up for re-election, you need to know when you make that original decision that I might be doing this again in 6 years. So when I drew an opponent a couple months ago, we sat down and we looked at each other and we talked and said, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it 100%.
August 26th. When is it?
28th.
August 28th. We
You
need
can go
to
vote
get out
today.
and vote. If you're in Orange County, anyone in Orange County, you don't have to be Republican or Democrat. It's not a primary type thing. It's not a partisan election at all. You can vote for Judge Adam McGinnis. Look, he's been there for 6 years already. Hundreds of thousands of cases. There's no opponent of his. There's only one, but that has ever done that. I mean, there's just not. And you have to admit that handling 100,000 cases, knowing how to operate on the bench for the last 6 years, has got to set you apart from others.
Absolutely.
I mean, that it's really unbelievable. So,
Are you term limited? Do you?
No, there are
can
no
run as
term
many
limits, as many times as you want, but you're age limited. So if you turn 70 in the first half of your 6-year term, then you cannot run. So we age out in the late 60s, which means I still got about another 30 years left in me. Although I don't see myself being there for another 30 years.
You have a lot more gray hair.
Yeah.
So 6 years on the bench, you must have seen some crazy courtroom drama. Are there any moments that stand out when you were on the bench that something crazy happened?
Every day is a new experience, and every day is a different experience, and I wouldn't say that there's one particular incident that I would say defines the craziest experience, but it's the type of job that every day when you walk in, you don't know what you're going to see. You don't know what's going to walk through the door.
Right.
And it could be a boring day, it could be an exciting day. And so I'm down at the jail, and I'm probably one of the few people that when I show up to work, if there are 6 or 7 news vans parked in front of my office, I know it's going to be an exciting day.
Right.
If there's no news vans, then I know it's going to be probably a normal day. And there aren't too many people that go to work trying to see how many news vans are parked in front of their office to figure it out. So I used to listen to the radio on the way to work, and if there was some kind of crime that had just occurred or something, I'd say I would know what I was walking into, but I just show up and see what's there.
Are there other judges at the jail, or is it just you?
So there's 2 of us out there, and that's why I said if there's a female voice, it's not me. If it's a male voice, it is me. And then on the weekends they rotate. So I'm only there Monday through Friday.
Gotcha. So you don't have to work any weekends.
Well, I have to work 1 out of every 65 weekends.
I'm not good at math, but it
It's
seems
not
like
very
less
good.
than once a year, right?
It's less than once a
That's
year.
not too bad at all.
But I tend to I volunteered during the hurricanes to go out to the jail, because it doesn't matter what's going on. If you get arrested, you have to see a judge. You have to go before a judge within 24 hours. So that courtroom has to operate. And
Has
so
there
one-
ever been a time when it wasn't able to operate?
No, I mean, I was out there during the hurricanes last year. And so our offices, we have a full bathroom, full shower, we have a full kitchen.
Oh, wow.
We have air mattresses out there, so, when in doubt, you go out there and you stay out there
Wow.
Do you handle the domestic violence cases there?
every day.
Okay. So, in my understanding is domestic violence, the people have to sit in jail until the afternoon. Is that correct?
Typically, yes.
Okay. And why is that? What is the reasoning before that?
Well, there's two reasons. One, there's an administrative order that sets out how our dockets are managed. And so we have a morning docket and we have an afternoon docket. And the reason for the afternoon docket for the domestic is so that notice can be given to the alleged victims. So it doesn't matter if you get arrested for domestic violence at noon the day before or in the middle of the night. You go on the afternoon docket, and that is so that we can try and attempt to contact the alleged victims and get them to show up to court, because the victim input is extremely important when we're deciding conditions of release for these individuals.
Sure. I mean, those must be very difficult cases for a decision maker to make, because, on one hand, you want to protect this family, of course. Then on the other hand, you know that maybe there can be vindictive men and women out there falsely accusing people just to get back at them. I mean, how do you go through that decision-making process?
Sure. So an initial appearance is a non-adversarial proceeding, which means we're going to hear some arguments from opposing parties, but we're not going to hear any testimony or evidence. So what I have is a police report, and that's the only thing that I can consider when determining if there's probable cause or a valid reason for an arrest. If I make that determination, then I hear argument from counsel. I'll hear testimony from the witness to decide conditions of release. And so the decisions that I make are all temporary, they're very preliminary, and anything that I do is actually can be changed by the judge that's assigned to the case.
Listen to me, Orange County. I need you to get out and vote for Judge Adam McGinnis. He's been there for 6 years. We're going to send him back up to the bench, or keep him on the bench, ladies and gentlemen. Please, if you listen to the show, I want you to vote for Judge Adam McGinnis. Judge, thank you for being here. Great to meet you.
Thank
of course,
you.
We'll see you around. Bud 94.1.
Good luck.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead. If there's anything we can do to help.
No, man, I appreciate that.
Reach out.
That's going to be
Anything we
good.
can do, we're happy to help.
Yeah, I'm going to go stand out in the sun now until 6
Your
o'clock
turn.
at night.
Yeah, so Michelle or Kel wanted to tell you.
But thanks again
You
for
got it,
having me.
brother.
Oh,
Appreciate
okay.
it.
Oh,
Have a good
good.
tomorrow morning.
Yes, you do.
Good
Yes,
luck.
sir.
Tomorrow morning,
Good luck,
9 a.m. this show.
All right.
Good luck.
Thanks,
sir.
man.
All right,
How are
you
you?
take care.
Thank you. Good,
I'll
good.
see you later.
Stressed out?
All right,
Or,
thank
all
you.
right?
No, we're doing all right. It's campaign time, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta do what you gotta do.
What have you run for before? I forget.
Longwood City Commission. Yeah, so I was on the Longwood City Commission for 9 years, and 4 years. I did 4 terms as mayor. So.
Later this afternoon.
I'm trying to think of what else.
It's fancy, right?
Anything I need to stay away from?
I'm trying.
Any big fights that you're having?
No,
Okay.
I'm
Everything's good.
you know what? Issues are issues. So if it's a tough one. That's okay.
Skid, did you meet Joe? I'm
No.
sorry, Joe
Hi,
Durso.
how are you?
He's
Nice
going
to
to be
meet
the
you,
next
too.
Seminole County Commissioner
Very nice.
for District 4.
District 4.
Four.
Yeah, that's right. And so, yeah, it's been an interesting ride.
Yeah?
Yeah. So it was a little disjointed because between my term in Longwood and running for the county commission, I went back to school
Oh, really?
and I did another master's degree. I have 2 master's degrees, and I was traveling back and forth to Boston because I went to Harvard.
Yeah.
And they did not take well to me up there. I was a conservative lost in
The
a sea
Republican.
of blue.
I
It was
spent
rough,
I
buddy.
spent many years in Boston, I know.
Yeah, it was rough.
Bastard.
Yeah, it got to a point where in one of my classes,
And especially at Harvard.
yeah,
Well,
well,
even worse.
one of my professors would ask for comments, and I'd be like, "Well, I have a comment," and people would groan around. me. They were so over it. They were so over me.
Well,
beating the
that
conservative
means
drums.
that you're effective.
Yeah, well, I definitely got
You're
under some
actually
people's skin while I was
affecting
there.
people,
That's
yeah.
for sure. I definitely got under some people's skin.
All right.
That's awesome. You guys
Let's
ready?
do this.
All right.
Did you tag Joe? He's on. Okay, good. Thank you. She's so good.
All right.
Brianna,
She's
thank
totally on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
she knows exactly what's up.
Good.
Here we go. Hot mics.
Welcome back to the program. My name is Attorney Justin Clark. You're listening to Behind the Law on Bud 94.1. Thank you for spending some of your weekend here with us. I have my good friend and Orlando radio legend, Mick Dolan. Mick, what's up?
Reporting for duty.
How are you?
I'm good. Always.
We're still freaked out about the show from earlier this week that said we had to wear shoes only once every 2 weeks.
Really? You have to air your shoes out for a week.
It was unbelievable. I still don't believe
That'll
it.
never work.
Skid is here. Skid's looking at me all dumbfounded. I'll explain.
No,
to you
I
in a moment.
don't think you want me to take my shoes off. I'm just saying.
Skid is from our good friend 1031 The Wolf
How
next
are you?
door, the afternoon guy. So we had someone on the show this week who said she was a fashion expert and said
Yeah.
that we should have a pair of shoes for every day for 2 weeks. Meaning
Really?
you need to have 10 pairs of shoes that you wear.
That's crazy.
You
And I was
don't
like, you're
wanna
out of
wear
your
them
mind,
every
lady.
day. Not the same shoes every day.
Yeah.
Because there's bacteria in
No,
yours.
I don't know.
Yeah.
321-282-1055 www.upower.com. Please watch the show on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. on Central Florida's 27 WRDQ. Listen to us all week right here on Bud 94.1. And you can interact live with us on Facebook at ATTY Justin Clark. Good friend, well-known guy throughout all of Seminole County joins me now, Joe Durso. Joe, how are you, sir? Thanks
Doing
for
well.
being here, brother.
Thanks
I
for
appreciate
having
you
me,
coming in.
Justin. I appreciate you,
So
bud.
Joe is running for Seminole County Commission, and let me just get it right out front, because
Yeah.
people get confused. They're like, I'm going to go to the polls and vote for Joe in November. When should people go to the polls and vote for you?
August 28th is our primary election, and that is the election for the Seminole County Commission District 4 race.
And
Is
why?
that a partisan race?
It is a partisan race. So
Okay.
we have a Republican primary, and then there's a write-in candidate. And so the election will go to the general ballot in the fall, but it will be the winner of this primary that faces a write-in candidate at the end of the day.
So it's a guaranteed win essentially in November, but we've got to get through August here.
Right.
We need you if you live in Seminole County. Is there a certain area of Seminole County that can vote for you, or is it all of Seminole County?
We live in districts. We represent districts. My district covers a little bit of Sanford, a little bit of Lake Mary, almost all of Longwood, a little bit of Castleberry, a little bit of Altamont Springs. But we run county-wide. So if you're a Seminole County registered Republican, you can vote in this primary election.
So that's substantially different from Orange County.
Very much so, yes. We
Because
do
Orange
things a
County's
little bit
not
differently.
partisan, right? for the-
Right, we do things a little bit differently in Seminole, and so the races, they have some nonpartisan races that are partisan in Seminole County.
So people keep talking to me about early voting. Can people early vote for this or no?
Absolutely, yeah. As a matter of fact, people could already cast their absentee ballots. They were sent out in the beginning of August, and so they've had that opportunity for almost a month. And early voting starts tomorrow, actually. It runs the 18th through the 25th of August. And the Seminole County Supervisor of Elections, his website, voteseminole.org, actually has a listing of all the places that you can go to vote depending on where you live.
All right, so I know you're going to win, but look, we need to get out and vote for him. If we don't vote, Joe can't win. I know it looks good for you, but a little background on you. I mean,
Sure.
what qualifies you for this position?
Well, I think very broadly, my education and my experience. And so if you look at my work experience, I've served on staff in the State House and the State Senate. I've spent the past 14 years working with a company called Community-Based Care of Central Florida, and we are the agency that's responsible for taking care of abused and neglected children, foster kids, adoptions. So I've had a lot of experience not only in the community, but also with government bureaucracy and some of the challenges that companies and nonprofits face. My experience in the city of Longwood, I have a pretty proven track record delivering on the promises that I make. We built a strong economy in Longwood. Longwood was in a really bad way after the recession, and we really focused on new economic development, redevelopment, improving the quality of life in the city, improving the public safety of the city. We were rated one of the top 10 safest cities in all of Florida. And so I think combined, my education and my experience really do prepare me very well for this position.
Joe Durso for Seminole County Commission. Let's say I'm listening right now to Behind the Law, and I want to find out more information about you and your platforms. How do we find out more info?
Well, people can always visit our website. It's www.joedurso.org. And all of my campaign platform information and my contact information, people are always welcome to email or call me directly. And I'll talk to people. I got a phone call last night at 1:30 in the morning. A constituent was very upset about something. And they were making a last-minute decision and literally texted me. And then when I responded, they called me. And we were talking about development issue on the eastern end of Seminole County. And so, I'll talk to anybody anytime.
It sounds like a former patron of that bar in Longwood.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Next,
What?
we'll stay away from we'll stay away from that right now.
Okay.
So when I think of a mayor,
I had to
think
bring that up.
Sure.
when I think of a mayor, I think, okay, easy to understand. They're sort of the CEO of the city. When I think of someone running for school board, I'm like, all right, so they probably make decisions for schools and
Right.
things. When I think of county commission, I think, oh, is that the place where rich people go, rich landowners go to try to like smooze you to like build buildings and things?
Right.
I mean, is that what a commission does? We really don't understand exactly what a commission does.
So a county commissioner does a lot that's very similar to what a city commissioner does or what a city mayor does. They deal with upzoning, they deal with zoning in general, they deal with economic development, they deal with transportation policy, environmental policy, water policy, all of these different things that impact the unincorporated areas of Seminole County. And so there's a lot of those types of conversations that go on where people buy property and they want to try and develop. And that happens at the city and the county level.
So one of our good friends of the show is Joel Greenberg, who's a Seminole County tax collector. He's had some problems recently with the county commission, right? And if you don't want to talk negatively, it's okay. But I'm just curious as to what these problems really are. Do you know?
Well, I certainly don't want to. I won't talk negatively about any of the folks involved. But what I will tell you is that I'm a true believer in the independence of the constitutional officers that are elected in Seminole County. There is sometimes this desire from the part of the county commission, sometimes from the state, sometimes from the federal government, to overreach a little bit, take a little bit more control over issues that maybe they shouldn't have control over. And so I have really pledged to work with the constitutional officers, and that's why 3 of them actually are supporting me. I have the support of Joel Greenberg, Grant Malloy, and David Johnson, the property appraiser. And so, at the end of the day, they're duly elected officers. They have their own responsibilities, and they really have to answer every election cycle, like the rest of us, to the people. And so they should be allowed to do their jobs unencumbered.
Seminole County Commission, 2 questions.
Sure.
How many commissioners are there at any given time, and then how does the voting work? So when an issue comes before you, how do you guys vote on it and decide what to do?
So there's 5 commissioners. There's 5 different districts. And it's just like any other commission meeting. It's majority rule generally. It's put on an agenda. Depending on what it is, you might have to hear it 1 or 2 or 3 times before a final vote is taken. But it's usually majority rule. There's very few instances where it's a super majority where you would need 4 out of the 5. But it's pretty basic civics 101 type stuff.
Tell me a little bit about your education, Joe Durso, because I know you're a little more highly educated than some people running for this office. Tell me about that.
Sure. So, my mom was a teacher, and so my mom was a teacher. My father was a New York City police officer. So in my house we had 2 things: discipline and education. And there was no question about who handled each one of those things with my parents.
Right.
But my mom really beat into us the idea of always improving our minds, always sticking with school, always learning more, doing more in the community. And so education's been a big focus in my life. So I attended Florida State University for my undergraduate degree. I have 2 bachelor's degrees from FSU. I have one in political science and one in economics. I went to George Washington University, earned a master's degree in issue advocacy, which is basically what I do for abused and neglected kids. So it kind of improved my ability to do that effectively. And then recently I graduated from the Kennedy School at Harvard University with a master's in public administration.
Beautiful. I mean, that's right on point, right? I
Yeah,
mean, that is right on point. If you are listening in Seminole County, no matter where you live in Seminole County, I want you to vote for Joe Durso to be your next commissioner. He's the 4th district, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you live.
Anyone can vote.
You don't vote like that. But listen, this is not a November thing. This is an August thing because it's going to be decided in the primary. So this is what, a week and a half away?
We're 11 days. I think it's 11 days now. 11 days away.
And the early voting has already started. So if you want to do yourself a favor, if you're a Seminole County resident, please vote Joe Durso, Seminole County Commission. Now let's say once you get up there, Joe, what do you think some changes are that you could make to help improve this commission and really improve the county in general?
Well, there's a couple of different facets of I think improvements that need to be made. One definitely relates to growth management. I think growth has been pretty out of control in Central Florida. We all get it. we all have our little piece of heaven, and we don't want anybody else to be able to come and get their piece of heaven because we want to protect ours. But there's got to be some reasonable development, not just development for development's sake, which seems like it's happening a little bit more often than usual. There are also some ethical things and some campaign finance type things that I would love to see us move toward. For instance, one of the things that I've been really heavy on is the idea of term limits. I think it's more than appropriate at a county level. I think lowering the amount of a campaign donation to $250. Right now we can all accept up to $1,000. Maybe taking a little bit of money out of the process. Leon County actually does that. They lowered their campaign donation limit to $250. I think Sarasota County may have done the same thing. And then of course the idea of potentially registering lobbyists at the county so that we know who's actually lobbying and trying to influence government officials, and opening up that accountability issue a little bit.
I went from Boston for many years to Miami, always
Right.
living in the city every time. Then even when I moved to Orlando, I lived in Thornton Park, like downtown Orlando, and then we had the kid, and Pilar was like, oh, we're moving to the suburbs. I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not moving to the suburbs. And of
Right.
course, we immediately moved to the suburbs
Right.
and ended up in Seminole County in Lake Mary. I don't think I've ever been happier. I mean, Seminole County is just an
a beautiful place.
awesome place to raise a family, is it not?
It's absolutely a wonderful, it's a beautiful community. When you think about how safe it is, when you think about the schools, when you think about just the overall quality of life, access to good jobs, our proximity to things like beaches and theme parks, we're close enough that we get to enjoy them. We're far enough away from them that they don't impact our day-to-day life. It really is a remarkable community, and I'm certainly very proud to have represented Longwood, and I hope that we get the opportunity to represent the county as a whole.
And Longwood is certainly kind of a growing town too, and then you have the Sunrail coming through,
Sure.
but Sanford, downtown Sanford, also just booming. If you're thinking about maybe moving to Seminole County or investing in Seminole County, I want you to stick around. We're going to ask Joe Durso. He's running for Seminole County Commission. A few more questions right on the other side of this break. My name is Justin Clark. 321-282-1055. Behind the Law on Bud 9041. What else can I hit on that I haven't missed? Anything to think yourself?
Really, there's the rural boundary issue that's out in the eastern part of the county. There's a lot of the stuff that we're hearing just relates to growth. People are just so kind of over it.
Yeah.
The traffic is really the biggest
Howell
thing.
Branch Road is a good example.
Yeah, every road is a good example.
Yeah.
But that huge, there's two big developments going in
Yeah.
off of Howell Branch. It's like, is that in Seminole, that part?
Yeah, I think that's
Orange.
just
That's
yeah,
still
it's just
Orange
south,
Winter
yeah,
Park
yeah,
area,
south.
yeah.
But that's actually a really interesting point. Is what happens just over the line in Volusia or in Orange impacts us just like what we
Of
do
course.
impacts them, right? Because people
Yeah.
are constantly traveling.
Well,
back and
they've
forth.
got that same growth problem in the eastern part of Orange
Sure,
as well.
Right.
sure,
The
yeah.
econ
Yeah.
thing, it's
Right.
like, and so
Right.
far they've been voting down those proposals.
Right. Well, and there's a big proposal out in the eastern part of the county that has drawn a lot of attention, and it's stirred up all kinds of emotions with people and stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, the growth is the number one issue that we hear, 100%. So.
Okay. Here
We had 12 minutes left.
we go. Alex.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Justin Clark. You're listening to Behind the Law on Bud 94.1. Thank you for spending a small part of your weekend here with us. If you have any questions, 321-282-1055. We do the show every day on Bud 94.1. You can watch it live on social media at ATTY Justin Clark. Also, please watch the show Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. on Central Florida's 27 WRDQ. The website is www.youhavepower.com. I'm talking to Joe Durso. Easy for me to say. I'm a broadcast professional, Joe, as you can tell. He's running for Seminole County Commission. We need to vote for him in August. We're essentially a week and a half away. So this is August 28th, Tuesday,
That's the
right?
primary,
August
right.
28th is the primary. Or even you can do early voting. And this is not the kind of election where you can only vote if you're in a certain district. This is all of Seminole County. We need to go out and vote. If you miss it in August, you can't vote again. This election will be decided in the August primary election. So any registered Republican, I guess,
That's
can
right,
go
right. Any registered
vote
Republican.
in August. Please vote Joe Durso, Seminole County Commission. Joe. All right, so I love Seminole County. I love it. Live in Lake Mary.
Right.
Very, very. Never thought I would really be happy in the suburbs, but I just am. That being said, I mean, there's certainly a lot of growth in Seminole County,
Sure.
and there's a balancing act. I mean, we want to we want free markets and we want stuff. We want nice restaurants and things, but then with that comes traffic and other issues with this unbelievable growth. How do you balance that as a commissioner on letting some things come in and some things not?
Well, that's kind of the trick in all local government. And so, if you look at some of the estimates we have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people moving, expected to move to Seminole County in the next 15 to 20 years. And a lot of people say, well, you got to keep them out. Well, you really can't keep them out. If they decide that they want to come and buy a piece of property and build a house, or they want to move into an apartment, or whatever the case may be, the growth is coming to Central Florida in general. Florida is growing. And so it's really important that we focus on the type of growth that we allow in the county, because you want to always maintain the county's image as Florida's natural choice, right? You want to protect the Wekiva, you want to protect the Econ, you want to protect the St. John's, you want to protect those open spaces that give people a little bit of a respite from the city and from all that congestion and traffic. So my focus has always been that development should be allowed in the cities, right? Cities want that growth. They already have the infrastructure in place. They have roads, they have sewer, they have water, they have police, they have fire, they have public parks. They have a lot of the things that are very costly for government. And so if you allow cities to build up, if you support their efforts to redevelop, because really if you look at places like Sanford, if you look at places like Longwood, those are older cities with huge parcels that could be redeveloped. And you can bring in new restaurants and new bars and new retail stores and new manufacturing and all these different opportunities, but you have to support their efforts to kind of redevelop. And that keeps outside of the cities to a lower density type development.
There was a point in time where they were trying to rename Seminole County, or at least do some marketing, calling it North Orlando. Do you remember hearing about that, or Orlando North?
Sure.
Did that fall by the wayside, or what happened?
Well, there's still some back and forth about whether or not to do that. There's a lot of people that believe that it's a great idea because you link yourselves to Orlando. There's a lot of people that believe that it's a terrible idea because you link yourselves to Orlando. And so there's a lot of back and forth on that. I think it's really important, no matter what direction the county chooses, I think it's really important that we always stress what we have, which is a lot of nature tourism, a lot of ecotourism, and a lot of different complexes that are kind of supportive to the things that happen in Orlando. Like we have the Orlando City training facility in Seminole County. We have a lot of sports facilities in Seminole County where we're able to host large regional statewide conferences or tournaments. Those types of things will really help bolster our tourism economy in Seminole County.
I mean, Seminole County is awesome. When I have people from outside of Florida come visit, one of the things I always like to do is take them down to like Wekiva Island. I mean, that's like real Florida right there. You know what I mean? I mean, this is real, true Florida. People are like, oh, we're going to Disney World. I'm like, no, we're going to see the Wekiva River. It's real Florida. I mean, it's just a natural, beautiful thing that we have here in Seminole County. One thing I have noticed is, and I've been hearing a lot of back and forth on this rural boundary issue. Describe what that is.
So back in 2004, the citizens in Seminole County voted to basically draw a line on the eastern part of the county and keep a certain portion of the county, huge portion of the county, rural. They wanted to keep it low density, low development. And so recently there have been some attempts to pierce that boundary and to develop large-scale developments in that area. And there's a lot of people that are really upset. So it's kind of a jagged line that's east of the 417 and east of the 419. So like if you just start kind of east of Sanford and draw a line straight down to Orange County, it's a wide area, but it's really jagged. It runs along Oviedo.
So I'm going up 419 and I'm passing the hitching post.
Right.
Are we talking?
Why is everything based on bars for this
He
guy?
loves the bars.
It's unbelievable.
He loves the bars, I'm telling you.
He loves the bars. I'm telling you. So when you talk about Geneva, when you talk about Chuliota, when you talk about the Black Hammock, you're talking about the rural boundary. Okay. In those areas, that's where you're.
Because it still looks pretty rural up there by the hitching post.
Right, and so there's a lot of folks that are interested in buying large parcels and then building huge developments. And part of the problem is that'll have an environmental impact. It could impact the St. John's and the Econ River dramatically. And two, the county just doesn't have the money for the infrastructure that would be needed to go out there. Even with higher impact fees, the amount of money that we would need to spend to develop roads, sewer, water. We just heard the cost of a potential new fire station at a proposed new development would be $8.5 million. That's just for the fire station. That doesn't include all the other stuff that would go along with it. So, so there's a lot of reasons to really think twice before allowing anything out there. And I've come out pretty clear on holding the line, holding that boundary where it is, and keeping densities out there very low.
So if you limit the amount of new development,
Sure.
does that put price pressure on what's out there now, like rents, rental price?
No, I don't.
Housing price.
It's a lot of give and take in that market. That's a really good question based on supply and demand. But I think a lot of, as I said before, I think a lot of the focus goes back to the cities and allowing them to redevelop and increase their densities, which will take some of that, relieve a lot of that pressure on the housing market.
So Seminole County, pretty big county, I guess. We have several cities within the county. We have Winter Springs, we have Sanford, we have Longwood, of course,
Yep.
which have their own commissions, I presume,
Right.
for the most part.
Right.
How does the city and the county work together? Because these cities are obviously within the county, but how do cities and counties work together?
Right. Well, it's funny. I was actually with Mayor Triplett from the city of Sanford yesterday, and Scott Sturgill, who I know you've had
Yeah.
on the program before. We were doing a town hall up in Sanford, and we actually talked about how difficult sometimes the relationship can be between the cities and the county over who controls what and who's authorizing what. And I think part of the reason why 5 of the mayors and almost 24 city commissioners throughout Seminole County are supporting me is because, well, not 24 officials, I should say, are supporting me is because they look for a better relationship with the county. They're looking for a better opportunity to partner with them on economic development projects, especially on transportation projects. When you do work on 1792, it affects 6 cities.
Sure.
When you do work on 434, it affects 3 cities.
It affects
Actually,
a whole
4
lot more than
cities.
that. I'm
Right,
telling
but
you.
and that's just in the county.
Yeah.
And then when you tag off into Orange County or Volusia County, whatever it may be, and so there's a lot of cooperation that needs to be built, a lot of better relationships that need to be built, so that there's a more effective relationship between the cities and the county.
I know if you're go ahead.
Wait. When they widen the road, like 1792,
Yeah, you
now
don't get me
that's
started on
U.S.
this, Yeah, you know what? Listen. I'll tell you, the Florida Department of Transportation, when I was mayor, came in and widened State Road 434, and they didn't really ask us. They just told us that this is what they were going to do, and as a result of that, I lost a number of businesses in our community. We lost a number of jobs in our community.
Wow.
They hosted a community meeting that was intended to get feedback, where they basically told us what they were going to do, and then walked away. And we fought them tooth and nail on that widening because. And I'll tell you a really quick interesting story. During a commission meeting, I asked the DOT representative, the level of service right now is what? He said, it's an F. I said, what's it going to go to? He said, it's a D.
Wow.
And I said, okay. I said, now how long will that take? And he said, probably 6 months to a year, it'll go back to its original state of being a failing road, right? And so I said, what if we do the intersection improvements at a fraction of the cost, right? We're just going to improve the intersections to help traffic flow instead of widening the road, costing these businesses and these jobs.
Yeah.
He said, well, it'll go to a D. And I said, how long will it take? And he said, well, 6 months to a year, it'll be back at an F. So we wasted a ton of money. We lost jobs. We lost businesses in the city, all because of a master plan that was developed in Tallahassee that really didn't make any sense at the local government. And
So he's saying that'll never work. Then.
So
it'll never be a good road.
It's not that it'll never work. I think that's where you need to focus on alternative means of transportation, right? That's where Sunrail and Lynx and Uber and Lyft need to come into play. We signed an agreement with Uber. Cities of Castleberry, Longwood, Altamont, Maitland, and Sanford signed an agreement with Uber where we basically cut a break. If you took an Uber to the train station, you got a 25% discount. If you took an Uber anywhere in the zone, all of those cities, you got a 10% discount. At the end of the year, the city of Longwood wrote a check to Uber for $10,000. A Lynx bus will run you $150,000 a year. And so it went from a bus where you'd have to wait 3-4 hours. Oftentimes,
Yeah.
You always hear these horror stories about
In
the
the
buses.
pouring down rain
Right.
with lightning.
To
come on.
on-demand transportation, where
Yeah.
you could call and say, I want to go to the train station, or I need to go to Sanford, I need to go wherever, and
Yeah.
you would get a break. And the city wound up writing a check for like $10,000 to provide a public transportation service at a fraction of the cost.
That brings me to a question. How do cities and counties make money? How do they bring in revenue? You hear about, I know if you own a house, you have to pay property taxes. That goes to the county or the city? How does it split up?
Every city and every county have their own ad valorem tax rates. And so if you look at your property tax bill in Seminole County, you're probably, if you live in a city, you're paying a city tax, you're paying a county tax, you're paying a St. John's tax, St. John's River Water Management District tax. You're paying a school board tax. I feel like I'm missing one that's on the list, but so that's where the bulk of the revenue comes from. But then there's also grants that can come in from the federal or state government. There's fees that are associated with whether it's water. You know, when you use water, you should pay for it. So you pay for those types of services, and that's where a lot of the revenue comes
Can a county run out of money?
from.
You know what I mean? I mean, I'm
if-
sure they have a budget, but I mean, can you
if-
just run out of
if-
money, or
if-
is there
if-
money in the
if-
coffers, or what?
If liberals are running it, sure, why not?
Right, exactly.
So I think, I mean, in general, we've always strived in Seminole County to balance our budgets. The cities and the counties have really worked hard to, and the county have really worked hard to stay on budget. I know the city managers, the county manager, they work really, really hard to live within their means, and I think that's part of the deal. Can you run out of money? Sure. Can you declare bankruptcy? Sure. You'll go into receivership with the state, so technically you could, but that's not. I don't think that's very feasible in Seminole County.
Joe Durso, your next Seminole County Commissioner, but you have to go vote for him August 28th in Seminole County, countywide. You can vote for Joe. More information, Joe, where?
JoeDurso.org.
And anyone in the county of Seminole can go vote. You can do early voting, but you have to vote before the November election. It's got to be in the primary. Any registered Republican in Seminole County, please go vote for Joe Durso.
Easy for you to say.
Easy for me to say. 321-282-1055. The website, youhavepower.com. Watch the show tomorrow, 10 a.m. on Central Florida's 27. And Mick Dolan, I don't know much, but I do know one little thing.
What's that?
I will see you right back here next Monday on Bud 94.1.
Excellent.
Good job, man.